This is what a vacuum bomb does to a building. Ever heard of a vacuum bomb? It's one of warfare's most destructive weapons, known for reshaping landscapes and leaving a path of utter devastation. This powerful silent killer works by creating a sudden vacuum that obliterates everything around it with immense force. Unlike most bombs, it's designed to penetrate hidden or fortified spaces like caves or bunkers, making it especially effective against enemies in concealed positions. But what exactly gives this bomb its unmatched power? And how could it change modern warfare? Let's see what happens when a vacuum bomb meets its target. Thermobaric bombs or fuel-air explosives are a category of weapons designed to deliver massive destructive power through the use of air and fuel. Unlike conventional bombs, which rely on internal explosive materials to detonate, thermobaric bombs utilize the atmosphere's oxygen to enhance their blast effect. Here's how they work. Initially, a small charge disperses a fuel mist into the air. This fuel cloud then mixes with oxygen from the atmosphere, creating a highly combustible mixture. Once this fuel-air mixture is sufficiently dispersed, the bomb detonates, creating a devastating shockwave. This explosion doesn't just cause destruction through its blast radius, it also creates a secondary effect that is even more lethal: oxygen depletion. The mechanics behind a thermobaric weapon are far more intricate than traditional bombs. The explosive force created by this secondary blast results in a vacuum effect, briefly sucking the air out of the area. This leads to a rapid decrease in oxygen levels, which can suffocate anyone within the blast radius, as well as causing structural damage that would be hard to replicate with a traditional explosive. The intense pressure from the shockwave can cause internal injuries even if the target is not directly hit by the explosion. This makes the vacuum bomb not just a tool for destroying structures, but a weapon that can annihilate everything within its range, including human life. The aftermath is a landscape that looks like it has been hit by a storm of fire, leaving few survivors and turning the affected zone into an area of charred rubble and ash. This layered impact of extreme pressure, vacuum, and fire is what makes vacuum bombs so uniquely destructive, often rendering them weapons of psychological warfare as well as physical destruction due to the overwhelming fear they inspire. While the aftermath is terrifying, the origin of the thermobaric weapons can be traced back to World War I, a period defined by unimaginable horrors and technological innovation. Though they were not used in the form we know them today, the concept of using fuel as a means of creating more powerful explosions was explored by the Germans in their use of incendiary shells. The idea evolved throughout the 20th century, with the Soviet Union and the United States being the primary innovators of these weapons. During the Cold War, both nations sought ways to develop weapons that could destroy fortified positions and penetrate bunkers, which led to the first practical thermobaric devices. The U.S. developed the first functional thermobaric bomb, the CBU-55, in 1965. The bomb was initially tested during the Vietnam War, where its deployment was meant to clear out dense jungle areas and destroy enemy hiding places. However, its first major use came in 1971, when it was dropped on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The bomb's primary purpose was not only to destroy military structures, but also to suffocate enemy soldiers hiding in caves and bunkers. The CBU-55 was effective, but its drawbacks, like its imprecise targeting in windy conditions and the large canisters that created drag, meant it was difficult to deploy effectively on all missions. Despite its limitations, the success of the CBU-55 laid the groundwork for the development of even more advanced thermobaric weapons. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was also experimenting with thermobaric weapons, creating the RPOA flamethrower, which relied on the same principles of dispersing fuel into the air. This system was designed for short-range use, delivering devastating effects in close-quarter combat situations. Russian thermobaric weapons like the RPOA allowed troops to clear enemy positions from a distance, devastating entrenched forces and bunkers that would have otherwise been impervious to conventional explosives. One of the most well-known Russian thermobaric devices is the TBG-7V grenade. This was a rocket-propelled grenade designed to deliver a high-powered fuel-air explosive to enemy forces, decimating troops, armor, and even reinforced bunkers. What made these bombs especially deadly wasn't just their blast radius, but the after effects of their detonation. Thermobaric weapons have the unique ability to sustain a high-pressure blast over a long period compared to conventional bombs, which dissipate quickly. The shockwave produced by the blast causes devastation not only to the surrounding structures, but also to the human body. Internal organs are ruptured by the force of the shockwave, even if the victim is not directly hit. This creates a more deadly form of injury, causing people to suffocate or perish from internal trauma, often before they even realize what's happening. In the 1990s, Russia's interest in thermobaric weapons grew even further. During the First Chechen War, Russian forces used thermobaric bombs to clear out separatist strongholds, resulting in widespread devastation. One of the most infamous uses of these bombs occurred during the 1999 Russian invasion of Chechnya. Russian forces dropped TOS-1 thermobaric rockets on the Chechen capital, Grozny, leveling much of the city and causing thousands of civilian casualties. The sheer destruction caused by these bombs led to widespread international condemnation, but their effectiveness in war was undeniable. These bombs were able to wipe out entrenched positions that could withstand traditional bombing runs. The global interest in thermobaric technology did not stop with the Cold War superpowers. Countries around the world began developing their own variations of vacuum bombs in the 21st century. China, for example, created the PF-97 rocket launcher, which became one of the most advanced thermobaric devices on the market. Capable of delivering a highly potent blast over distances of up to 400 meters, the PF-97 represented a significant leap forward in thermobaric technology. This launcher was designed for close-range urban combat, enabling Chinese forces to clear buildings and strongholds with terrifying efficiency. It's clear that thermobaric weapons are becoming more widely used and adapted for different forms of warfare. Even smaller nations have started using thermobaric weapons. In the early 2000s, Brazil developed its own version of a precision-guided thermobaric bomb known as the Trocano. The Trocano was inspired by US and Russian technologies, but was refined to be more lightweight and portable. This bomb could be dropped from aircraft or launched from the ground, making it versatile in different combat scenarios. It serves as an example of how thermobaric weapons are no longer restricted to the world's largest military powers. Even countries with smaller military forces are adopting these technologies, further spreading the reach of thermobaric warfare. Ukraine also demonstrated the power of thermobaric weapons during the ongoing conflict with Russia. The RG-27S thermobaric grenade, a powerful handheld weapon, was used to devastating effect by Ukrainian forces to flush out Russian-backed separatists from entrenched positions. With its ability to create an intense blast and a massive fireball, the RG-27S is a crucial example of how thermobaric weapons are being used in urban warfare, where their shockwave can tear apart buildings and decimate civilian infrastructure. Despite their military effectiveness, the use of thermobaric weapons has generated much controversy. Critics charge that thermobarics have an indiscriminate and uncontained nature. While these weapons may be subject to potentially unlawful methods of employment, thermobarics themselves are not inherently indiscriminate. Inherently indiscriminate weapons are those that by their nature are incapable of complying with the principles of distinction and proportionality. Vanishingly few weapons fit that category. A footnote of the U.S. Department of Defense Law of War Manual provides as an example a proposal to strap incendiary devices to a flock of live bats, noting that, quote, "If that is the best example that can be given of an inherently indiscriminate weapon, there are not very many inherently indiscriminate weapons in existence," unquote. The International Committee of the Red Cross has raised concerns about their use in populated areas due to their potential for widespread harm. The intense blast radius and oxygen deprivation caused by these bombs could lead to civilian casualties, making them particularly controversial in urban warfare. The lack of global regulation on thermobaric weapons also raises ethical questions about their use. While these weapons may offer an advantage in military strategy, they also pose severe risks to civilian populations and the environment. There have been calls for international agreements to restrict or ban the use of thermobaric bombs, especially in areas with high civilian density. The Geneva Conventions, which govern the use of warfare tactics and weapons, do not specifically address thermobaric weapons, leaving their deployment largely unchecked. Countries like Mexico, Sweden, and Switzerland have proposed bans on their use, but major powers including the United States and Russia have rejected such proposals. This lack of regulation leaves the future of thermobaric weapons uncertain as nations continue to develop more powerful versions of these bombs. As thermobaric weapons continue to evolve, their role in modern warfare becomes more pronounced. These weapons are not just powerful, they are literal game changers, capable of reshaping the battlefield in ways traditional explosives simply cannot. Whether they are used to clear out enemy positions, destroy bunkers, or wreak havoc on civilian areas, thermobaric bombs have proven to be a tool of unparalleled destruction. So long as the weapons are targeted at lawful military objectives, accompanied by feasible precautions to protect civilians and civilian objects, and employed in accordance with the principle of proportionality, the fact that they inflict necessary suffering is not a bar to their lawful use. But the future of thermobaric weaponry remains uncertain. And while their military effectiveness is clear, the ethical questions surrounding their use are hard to ignore. Should there be a worldwide effort to regulate or ban these weapons, or are they simply a natural progression of military technology? One thing is for sure, as the global landscape evolves, so too will the technology that can wipe it out. The vacuum bomb is here to stay, and its destructive potential continues to shape the future of warfare. Before we wrap up, if you found this video insightful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on more content like this. We've got a lot more coming your way. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the use of thermobaric weapons in modern warfare? Do you believe they're a necessary evil, or is their sheer destruction too much for today's battlefield? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.